The world's most powerful guided missile submarine, an Ohio-class SSGN carrying up to 154 Tomahawks, has just been confirmed in the South China Sea. This single vessel, silent beneath waves that carry $5 trillion in annual trade, instantly upends the region's fragile military balance. But why now? While China tests colossal unmanned submarines and fortifies man-made islands, the presence of such overwhelming U.S. firepower sends a message that can't be ignored. Yet in this high-stakes contest, every move raises more questions than answers. What's really at stake beneath these waters? And what brought American power here, right now? This is the real story behind the South China Sea. The Ohio-class SSGN stands as the most heavily armed submarine ever put to sea by the United States. Measuring more than 170 meters in length and displacing nearly 19,000 tons submerged, this vessel was originally built to carry nuclear ballistic missiles. Between 2002 and 2008, 4 of these giants were converted for a new mission: to deliver overwhelming precision firepower and support special operations deep inside contested waters. At the heart of its transformation lies an engineering feat: the installation of 22 vertical launch tubes, each loaded with a 7-shot multiple all-up round canister. The math is stark: 22 tubes, 7 Tomahawk cruise missiles per tube, for a total of 154 land attack missiles ready to launch. Each Tomahawk Block 5 missile can strike targets over 1,000 kilometers away, skimming low over the horizon before hitting airfields, radar sites, or command bunkers with pinpoint accuracy. The latest variants, including the Block 5A, add a maritime strike capability, allowing the SSGN to threaten moving warships as well as fixed installations. This single submarine, hidden beneath the surface, can unleash as much firepower in the opening hours of conflict as an entire carrier air wing operating for days. Naval analysts point out that the 4 SSGNs together hold more than half of the U.S. Navy's entire submarine-launched vertical launch missile capacity. The presence of just one in the South China Sea means nearly every key Chinese military facility within the first island chain falls inside its strike envelope, from Hainan submarine bases to airfields and missile batteries along the southern coast. But firepower is only part of the story. The SSGN's stealth, its ability to operate undetected for months at a time, makes it a nightmare for adversary planners. Unlike surface ships, it can slip through contested waters, reposition at will, and remain a persistent, invisible threat. 2 of its missile tubes are configured as lockout chambers, supporting up to 66 special operations forces for covert missions ashore. Dry deck shelters can be fitted for the launch of SEAL mini-subs, extending the SSGN's reach into denied territory. The technical upgrades go beyond weapons and special operations forces support. Modernized communication systems allow the SSGN to serve as a forward command post, relaying real-time intelligence and receiving updated targeting data while submerged. This versatility, precision strike, intelligence gathering, special operations, and command and control makes the Ohio-class SSGN a unique chess piece in high-stakes deterrence. The conversion of these submarines was driven by a simple calculation. In an era of missile defense and anti-access threats, massed, stealthy firepower is the ultimate insurance policy. Now, with one of these boats confirmed in the South China Sea, the balance of risk for any military planner in the region has changed overnight. The question is no longer whether U.S. forces can reach key targets, but how quickly and how unpredictably they might do it. Every year, between $3.4 and $5 trillion in global trade flows through the South China Sea. Tankers, container ships, and bulk carriers form a steady procession along these narrow lanes, carrying energy and goods between Asia, the Middle East, and the West. For China, Japan, South Korea, and Southeast Asian economies, these waters are the lifeblood of commerce. A single disruption, whether from conflict, blockade, or accident, would send shockwaves through global markets. But trade is only part of the equation. Over the past decade, the South China Sea has been transformed by a new kind of construction. Since 2013, China has dredged and built up more than 3,200 acres of artificial islands across the Spratly and Paracel chains. Outposts like Fiery Cross Reef and Mischief Reef now bristle with runways, radar domes, hangars, and missile batteries. Satellite images reveal hardened shelters, HQ-9 surface-to-air missile sites, and anti-ship weapons positioned to cover major shipping lanes. These fortifications form the backbone of what military analysts call an anti-access, area denial, or A2/AD network. The goal? Make it dangerous, even deadly, for rival militaries to operate inside the so-called 9-line. The contest isn't just above the waves. Beneath the surface, a new race is underway. Since mid-2023, Chinese naval bases at Sanya and Woody Island have become hubs for testing extra large, unmanned undersea vehicles, XXLUUVs, designed for intelligence gathering, environmental mapping, and potentially more covert missions. These robotic submarines, some stretching over 12 meters in length, can operate for weeks at a time and are supported by specialized tender ships. In July 24, China declared exclusion zones near Mischief Reef for undersea vehicle trials, a rare public admission of activity that Western intelligence had tracked for months. By September, satellite imagery confirmed the recovery of 2 large UUVs at Woody Island, signaling that persistent, autonomous surveillance is no longer theoretical. The result is a region under constant watch, where every movement, whether by ship, plane, or submarine, is tracked, cataloged, and analyzed. The presence of an Ohio-class SSGN in these waters adds a layer of unpredictability. It complicates Chinese planning, raises the cost of miscalculation, and injects a powerful new variable into an already crowded, contested domain. As the undersea competition intensifies, the South China Sea is no longer just a crossroads of trade or a patchwork of disputed reefs. It is a proving ground for the next era of military technology and strategy. On September 24, 2025, senior officers across the U.S. military received an urgent directive: report in person to Marine Corps Base Quantico within 48 hours. The order came from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, whose signature had already been attached to a series of sweeping changes at the Pentagon. By the evening of September 25th, nearly 800 generals and admirals, representing every branch and combatant command, had checked in, filling secure auditoriums and briefing halls under tight security protocols. The Pentagon, when pressed for details, offered no explanation for the gathering, and the official agenda remained classified. Major news agencies, Reuters, the Associated Press, The Washington Post, ABC News, and Military Times, each confirmed the scale of the event through independent sources. None could recall a precedent. Never before had so many 4-star, 3-star, and flag officers been summoned to a single base on such short notice, with no stated purpose. Even among senior staff, speculation ran rampant. Attendees arrived from commands as far-flung as Europe, the Pacific, and the Middle East, with travel orders and base access logs showing a steady stream of arrivals from the afternoon into late night. Security sweeps locked down the venue hours before the first plenary session, and press access was strictly limited to a holding area outside the perimeter. The only public detail was the number, around 800 top officers, all gathered at the personal order of Secretary Hegseth. No official statement linked the meeting to recent events in the Indo-Pacific, and no policy announcements were released in the days that followed. For now, the facts stand. An unprecedented assembly of the U.S. military senior leadership convened behind closed doors, with the world left waiting for answers. 3 possible explanations have dominated military analysis since the overlap of the SSGN South China Sea presence and the Quantico Generals Summit. The first points to a coordinated posture update. In this scenario, the U.S. is aligning its most powerful undersea asset with a synchronized command directive, ensuring that any shift in Indo-Pacific conditions can be met with a rapid, unified response. The logic is straightforward. If the region faces a sudden crisis, a submarine loaded with more than 150 Tomahawks, already in theater, offers the kind of flexible firepower that changes calculations in Beijing, Manila, and Washington alike. The mass gathering of generals, then, could be about tightening decision cycles and clarifying rules of engagement across every combatant command. A second theory centers on internal realignment. Recent months have seen sweeping billet cuts and leadership changes at the Pentagon. Assembling 800 top officers at Quantico may signal a new era of command relationships, alert postures, or even logistics directives. In this view, the U.S. is preparing for the long haul, shuffling munition stockpiles, prioritizing Tomahawk and JSM inventories, and pushing for faster resupply chains. The message to allies and adversaries is subtle but unmistakable. Expect new task organizations and a force that can adapt to sudden escalation. A third interpretation stresses the power of ambiguity. Deliberate opacity, hinting at submarine deployments and convening a secretive summit, serves as a form of strategic communication. By making both moves visible but unexplained, the U.S. injects uncertainty into adversary planning cycles. The risk of misreading intentions is real, but so is the deterrent effect. In the end, no official source has confirmed a direct link between the SSGN's patrol and the General's Assembly. The facts are clear. The intent remains open to debate. The world is left to weigh whether these moves are a coordinated signal or simply a coincidence. An Ohio-class SSGN can carry up to 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles, making it one of the most powerful platforms in the U.S. Navy arsenal. In late September 2025, credible reporting confirmed the presence of such a submarine in or near the South China Sea, with satellite imagery and media sources pointing to recent port activity. Almost simultaneously, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered an unprecedented in-person gathering of approximately 800 generals and admirals at Quantico, a move independently verified by multiple major news outlets. The official purpose of this summit remains undisclosed. While both events suggest heightened strategic attention to the region, no public document links them directly. What remains clear is that the South China Sea's military balance is evolving, from China's XXL UUV trials to U.S. deployments and command moves. The facts point to deliberate signaling and readiness, but key questions about intent and next steps are still unanswered. In this contested domain, actions and ambiguity shape the future as much as firepower does.